Annie, why'd you have to start this? I think you've gone too far.
Shut up, I know what I'm doing.
Afro Svengalis. Listen, everyone. I encourage you to catch part 1. That way you can get more info about who you saw at the beginning, Annie and Jimmy. I'm going to cut right to it. The reason why Annie is having such a hard time in these YouTube streets, because she has no Jimmy. Is there any Jimmy around here that's willing to go for something like this? You heard all those demands. You heard throwing up the financial contributions in the faces of not just the person she was speaking to. It was made clear by Annie that she was speaking to all the men in these YouTube spaces. All of them. It applied to every single man. And it was very bizarre because she threw shame in there. I thought you were a better person. That isn't just directed towards the person she's speaking to. It's being applied to all the men in this YouTube space. Make no mistake about that. I also want to say this before I go on. I received 2 requests of 2 men that, and I did acknowledge that they want me to drop this topic specific to them. I can completely understand why, but I am going to beep out the name when she complains about something that's no longer accessible here in these YouTube streets. And I'm not going to play it, the actual incident. Keep in mind that incident and another incident. This is what Annie's going on about. I'm not going to be addressing those incidents specifically. I'm just using them as references to highlight my point. Then there was another man. I'm saying man because it's very specific about these expectations. Did request that the issues not be fused between 2 spaces. And I completely agree with that. So I'm not going to be giving an inordinate focus on that aspect of the situation that is occurring. A tantrum is not a good way to get what you want. And that's basically what Annie was doing at age 50, throwing a 50-year-old tantrum. I'm not going into the other scenario that was in play, but I am mentioning some of the comments because Annie was the one that infused the issues, that merged the issues together. Obviously, me and Rev G are on her mind that she felt she needed to bring us up and dealing with another issue, which I'm not even addressing. I'm not even going to mention those involved. I'm pointing out that she used us. She mentioned us in this process. So I'm addressing these comments with another issue, which I'm not even addressing. I'm not even going to mention those involved. I'm pointing out that she used us. She mentioned us in this process. So I'm addressing these comments. I really think it's beyond the scope of reality. I think a lot of the terms that she was using, objecting to being disrespected, having issues with how a woman's body is used as the canvas or the center point of trauma and all of this stuff. Do you realize that this person has been involved in these conversations where these very things have been asserted or pushed upon women and she had no problem with it? She completely supported Dumble Ding Dong's video where he was threatening to rape me, force me into sexual acts because of YouTube posts. And oh no, it could be my wife. She came on and said she supported that video. I don't care if she supports the video or not. I'm mentioning it because it shows you what a hypocrite she is. What she says is simply not based in any reality. She has a lot of filler words and phrases. She is a talker, not a doer. And for her to sit here and say that I am tyrannical, well, you're conceding. If you say someone's tyrannical, you're conceding that they have power. You have to have power in order to be tyrannical. Across 50 states, I'm not the one giving myself power. She's giving power to me and expecting the person she spoke to take bullets, quote unquote, it's a figure of speech for her, that I'm throwing in her direction. She's expecting the person she was speaking to do something while I, Afro Svengalis, supposedly are lobbing bullets in her direction. Now, this is her language. I'm paraphrasing. What is she expecting them to do? It, to me, it's not congruent. Her expectations are so far out of line. What she's expecting to do is to have men who I've done nothing to come out swinging on me on behalf of her. How is that logical? It's not logical. And I would have a very big problem if anyone took her up on her demands and her offers. Now, I'm not counting the 20-something-year-old that constantly refers to needing cigarettes and weed and liquor, and she loads the person up with cash apps, not only for that, but to come for Rep G. I'm not including that person. I'm not including that person. I'm not factoring in Dumpsy either. Exclude those two out of the conversation. There could be others, but what Annie did on a world stage was to issue demands upon men, citing her financial contributions, and even declared, "You owe me." That was not just towards the person she was speaking to, people. Don't kid yourself. How successful do you think she's going to be utilizing this approach? She's not going to be successful. Well, let's talk for a second. How successful has she been with me? She says that she's sick of me. Has been sick of me for a long MF time. Well, the question is, what are you going to do about it? If someone says they're sick of you, they're sick of you. She's tried all these methods. She has listened to "let me see your handcuffs." I would like to know, this came to mind, did a sneak panel help? Did that alleviate the person's angst about me? Did getting on all these platforms, using all this vulgarity directed towards me, did that help? Because she's been all over these YouTube streets talking shit about me, throwing me into her sexual conversations, and then has the nerve to complain that women in these YouTube streets are disrespected, their bodies, trauma, and this and that. She laughed. She laughed at Dumble Ding Dong's threats to rape me. She thought it was funny. She supported the message, and she's on here saying she's sick and tired of women's bodies being used as a base of trauma, whatever she said. You in part one, you can go back and listen to it. And then she brings up this concept of fear. Who's bringing up fear? I mean, I've stated it before. I was very definitive about it. This type of routine or this type of presentation, or I say presentation because I think it's an act. Either way it goes, this doesn't move me to do anything to, what do you call, coddle or retreat or do anything like that. A female is throwing a tantrum, and I don't respond to females throwing tantrums anyway. Like, what is she expecting me to do? To stop talking about her? Well, let me tell you this. As long as she keeps including me in her sexually degrading commentary, I'm going to continue to respond. Let me clarify what I mean by response. Okay, one response might be a video that people will think about. When I say the tantrums and the female screaming and hollering, going off the rails, when I say I don't respond to that, that doesn't get me emotionally agitated. A female screaming at me, or trying to get me to do something I'm not going to do. Now, when I say respond, if there is degrading, illegal, unethical conduct that a female is engaging in and is pulling me into it, I will do what I need to do to get that behavior to stop. That's when I want to make a differentiation. So the screaming and the hollering and the tantruming and all that, it doesn't get me all, oh my God, I'm so worried that she's talking, she called me a, just that alone. No, I'm not going to be falling on my knees, shivering, my knees shivering together because a female has a temper tantrum. It's just someone screaming and hollering, acting like a child. And are you afraid of any children? Do your children scare you? I mean, you have to answer that question. It's children throwing temper tantrums. That's what they're doing in terms of their actions. That's the level that they're acting at. And I'm not fearing a child throwing a temper tantrum. This is very childish behavior. This is worth me responding to because she is a public servant. She continues to refer any chance she gets to money and sex. Now, listen, people. If the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't, don't even try to force the other shoe on. If it's not fitting, most of us can relate to the fact that money is a power central for men in general. Sex is a power central for women in terms of deciding if they're going to dole it out or not. And I use those crude terms only because this is how she is looking at things. She's constantly bringing up money and she's constantly bringing up sex in degrading terms. So these two issues seem to be central to her. She's talking. That's not me talking. She's talking. Over and over again, she's referencing me in these sexual conversations and trying to tell people how much better she is than them because she says she has all this money. I ask a question. Do you think there's a Jimmy involved? Because she doesn't talk about the money her husband has. She doesn't even talk about that. And then when she references her husband, the man I married, that's to me is kind of cold. When she references her dad, the man that made me. I don't know, maybe it is language. It just seems so cold and distant. How she refers to these people who she supposedly is so offended about that people offended because they talked about her in sexual terms. But she has been up on these platforms talking about me primarily in sexual terms. So try this on for size. If you participate on panels, public panels with men, were the only female and you are sexually degrading another woman, how can you formulate logic that these very same men are going to drop what they're doing to come to her defense when she complains about being sexually degraded and attacked? That just doesn't register with me. Am I saying they shouldn't be defending her? It has nothing to do with it. The expectation is incongruent with the behavior. She mentions tyranny in California across 50 states. Tyranny means that you're conceding I have power. This is what she is saying. These are her words. How about acting the fool in Georgia? I don't know if she actually lives in Georgia, or I know that she works there. Her behavior is extremely embarrassing for someone who gets so bent out of shape that she's not being acknowledged for having a PhD. She is going to take that degree and bash you over the head with it until she can get you to declare your utmost respect and reverence for her, regardless of how she refers to you.
I'm gonna beat your ass legally. I'm gonna take my belt. Where my motherfucking belt? Huh? Where my mother? Huh? Huh? I'm gonna show. I ain't playing with that fuck. Nigga, hold up. Let me get my belt. I'm gonna beat your ass. I'm gonna beat your motherfucking ass. I'm gonna beat your ass across the head with my motherfucking cup, nigga. I'm gonna go across your motherfucking head with my motherfucking cup, nigga. I'm gonna beat your bitch ass when I see you.
That's exactly what she does with this degree. She has this demeanor towards a PhD. She gets extremely angry if you do not talk about how great it is that she has a doctorate degree. She literally beats folks over the head with that degree and the anger. And she's also made threats of physical violence towards me. I'm just curious, how are you going to accomplish this? Are you going to give super chats? Let's knock super chats off the table. Are you coming here to perpetrate violence on me or think you're going to perpetrate violence on me? I can guarantee you that is not going to happen, that you're going to walk up to me face to face, look me in the face, and prevail with a physical altercation. I am just telling you, you are going to fail in that endeavor as well. I sure as hell will go nowhere to engage in any such conduct. So if you're not going to be doing this, it's suggested that you stop making reference to it. It is not amusing. It is not cute. You sound foolish, and I can guarantee you will look foolish if you ever try anything like that. The statements that she made were insulting. It's insulting for any man to think that a woman will get up on an international platform and be threatened, citing Cash App donations and shame. Who would do something like that? I don't know any real man that would go for something like that. And she's tried it before on panels. She has come up on panels and has tried to talk men into striking my channel because I use their content. You do this in public in front of everybody so you can put the man on stage to see whether or not he's a punk ass or not? That to me signals there's a Jimmy around. Because if you have a Jimmy around and you're used to doing what Annie does, wouldn't it kind of be like an automatic response, like a knee-jerk reaction when it comes to issuing demands? And the other part about it is, people want to sit here and complain. I don't care whether the man makes more money or the woman makes more money. Me personally, why would I care about that? This is your setup. Whether the woman is supporting the man, whether the man, who cares? That is your household. I know how I am. That's how I am. But the way Annie is and how I look at things is how I look at things. I'm not imposing. I'm just giving you my position and my opinion and my world experience. Talking this way, continuing to bring up money, signals to me there's a Jimmy around. That she's the breadwinner. That she's throwing this money around. Okay? Why would I care about that? This is your setup. Whether the woman is supporting the man, whether the man, who cares? That is your household. I know how I am. That's how I am. But the way Annie is and how I look at things is how I look at things. I'm not imposing. I'm just giving you my position and my opinion and my world experience. Talking this way, continuing to bring up money, signals to me there's a Jimmy around. That she's the breadwinner. That she's throwing this money around, okay? But she's not getting the reaction that she is typically used to. I think at first a few people might, oh yeah, this is great. You can give somebody money. That doesn't mean that they owe you anything. Unless it's a transaction in a store or something and you're ordering something online. There is no obligation on the part of anybody to do anything for anyone because they give them money. Especially here in these YouTube spaces. Based on what we heard, obviously, she feels quite differently than I do. And I venture to say quite differently than the majority of people who simply provide support, appreciation to people who deliver content. The vast majority of people aren't throwing it back in the face of those they've given money to. You owe me? Whoa, people. Therein lies the problem. No one owes you a damn thing in these YouTube streets because you give them money. Not one thing. That's a very huge source of anger and resentment because it appears this is what she's used to doing, doling out money and the person is obedient. The men around here are not being obedient. They're not, quote, behaving. They're not acquiescing. They're not falling down at her feet. They're not doing what she is ordering and commanding that they do. And she's giving these orders in public, in full view of the world. This is a strategy that let me see your handcuffs use. And for some reason, Annie decided to listen to Let Me See Your Handcuffs, although she was warned. Like we were warned about Let Me See Your Handcuffs. Annie was warned about Let Me See Your Handcuffs. She decides to ignore that. That's her business. But the methods are crap. The methods that you're using aren't successful, nor should they be. Threatening people with pulling of financial support because they don't do what you say. What makes her think that there aren't other people around here that would be willing to support channels. She's the only one that can give chump change to these channels because she's not breaking off 1,000 and 2,000 and 5,000. She's not breaking that off. She's giving chump change to these channels. And she's giving money, or even if she's giving $100 or $200, it's still not enough to get done what she wants to have done, is to throw all of these dudes in my direction and they're going to hit me full force in the chest and knock me down. That's what she's wanting to have happen because she's listening to Let Me See Your Handcuffs. And how is that turning out? It's failing miserably. Epic fail because of the person Let Me See Your Handcuffs is. And so if Annie wants to run with that, fine, let her run with that. But that is not going to be imposing upon me. It's not going to stop what I'm doing. Whatever my plans are my plans. I don't follow orders of Annie or Let Me See Your Handcuffs. And Annie obviously was misinformed, thinking that men in these YouTube streets were going to fall down at her feet because she gets chump change super chats or cash apps, whatever they're giving these days. It keeps switching. It didn't work. You all thought it was working. You were running around on these demon-infused panels, these demon live streams, laughing at all of this inappropriate, vile, and disgusting language that was hurled in my direction and Rep G's direction and Rep G's wife's direction. It was all funny. But now you don't like what you hear or what's being said. You think it's offensive to women, and you are angry because the men are not just dropping what they're doing and running to what? To do what? Who here is going to tell somebody that they can't speak? You certainly don't have the right to tell somebody they can't speak, of all people. Potty mouth Proctor, trying to tell people what's proper, what can and can't be said, when, where, and how. You don't have any credibility to pull this off. This is a joke. And I don't partake in jokes when it comes to enemies. So you better keep my name out of this garbage that you keep spewing. She says she's an expert in the field. What field? Can somebody help us out with this? What is the expertise? I see the expertise in being a potty mouth and screaming and hollering and cursing people out, talking about sex, sexual harassment. I see expertise in that. What is the expertise professionally? What is it? I'd like to know. Well, let's see if we can figure this out. Because we see here the title of Annie's dissertation. And if you want to read the dissertation, I'm providing the link. This is public knowledge. This is public access, ProQuest. All dissertations from publicly funded institutions or institutions that receive federal funding go into ProQuest. The dissertation is there. Here's the title. Is this the level of expertise? Like, what exactly is the expertise? She needs to let us know what it is so we can consider whether or not we will give credit where she says credit is due. I haven't heard anything about this topic. Not here in this space. Is this the expertise, or is it English, or what is it? Whatever the case, as we speak here now and today, this person, Annie, is not even in a tenure track position. So how can she be calling herself an expert in this area? What expertise? Tell us what it is besides the issues or areas that I just mentioned. And if you're not getting fulfilled in those areas, you can go to another space and speak to people who are talking about these issues. But you can't come in here and try to tell anybody, especially the men, what they're going to do with who, because you're screaming and hollering and throwing a temper tantrum. As you can see, no one's listening. No one is listening to you. You try to blame everything that happens. You try to blame it on me and Rev G. And you say that we're beneath you, and you have the nerve to sit here and say to Rev G, F off, or F you, whatever it was. What happened? What happened? Rev G stood up to you. Rev G wasn't a Jimmy. You tried to treat him like a Jimmy, and you learned the hard way that he wasn't. So that's why Rev G's getting punished. Rev G stood up to you. Let me see your handcuffs. Leading the way. You can follow, let me see your handcuffs wherever you want. It's disaster every which way she goes. That is your problem. Go hang out, have a nice time. It's not going to get any easier for you because there are so many people who want to make sure, let me see your handcuffs, is held accountable for what she did. Now, as far as this comment, you better not be sending people after me in this black check sector and blah. Listen, you're not telling me who I'm going to talk to, when, where, how, and what I'm going to say. You're not going to do that. I'm not going to listen to you. This is a person who has threatened violence against me and thinks she has the nerve to tell me what I'm going to say, to who, when, where, and how, and what the content will be. No, that is not happening. So you can shove your commands and your directives, because I'm not listening to any of them. And as you can see, neither did Rev G. You thought you had an easy road to go. You treated him with such disrespect. And now you're wondering why you are all out of sorts. Because you dogged out a very good person and an excellent friend. That's your decision. What you value is what you value. I'm just giving you my view of Rev G, and I've known him a lot longer than you have. You can sit around and wait for whatever you're waiting for. You have this imaginary perception about, I'm running on everybody, and I'm running this, and I'm running that. That probably is something that you're craving that's not fulfilled, and you're trying to say it's something that I'm doing. It's all in your head. I have something to say about how people treat me. And if they don't treat me in a manner that I feel is decent, garden variety respectable, I'm not demanding a red carpet. I'm bouncing. I'm not going to scream and holler and demand and all that. I'm not doing any of that, people. If there is something I don't like wherever I am, I'll make a statement. I'll bring it forth. I'll address it. If someone decides I'm not caring what you say, go fly a kite, I'm leaving. I'm not going to try to force somebody to respect me. I'm bouncing out of their lickety split. I don't give a damn what anybody says about it. Moving on. But this person is trying so hard to force something that is never going to happen. You cannot force somebody to defend you. Either they're going to defend you or they're not. You should never have to demand it. So if this is happening, listen up, people. I'm giving you some free advice. You are not rocking with the people you think you are. If they're not giving you something, you should never break your neck to get it. Either you're going to get it or you're not. So this is why this is all over the place. And trying to blame me and Rev G for what? For something that she created with, let me see your handcuffs. You're not going to tell me who I'm going to talk to. I am a grown-ass woman. I will talk to whoever I want, when I want, and I will say whatever I want. This is how she's trying to treat the men in this YouTube space. Anybody that falls for this is a fool. Excuse my language. I'm not even worried about that because I don't see anybody falling for it. People, I think, went along laughing, ah, ha, ha, ha. But the second she tried to put their hammer down, you see what's happening. They're not going to listen. We've all been in situations like that, right? The quicker you realize someone doesn't give a shit about you, the quicker you should be bouncing out of there. That's pretty simple. The whole damn YouTube space is not going to lay down miles and miles of red carpet for Annie. It's not going to happen. And the harder Annie tries to force this issue, the more difficult things are going to be. And Annie needs to learn right now, I'm not taking no blame for this. I'm going to give it right back to you. So as far as her making the statements about the president and can only fire me and you don't sign my checks, I don't know where that's leading. But I do know one thing. If I continue to be the subject of sexual harassment by Annie, I'm going to put her statements to the test. That's all I'm going to say. In the meantime, people, you know there's always a lot more to come. Never forget to heed the warning. Buyer beware.